Welcome to the new episode of Take It EV. Greg Yashkevich, and with me, I got Joel. Joel, introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing currently, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, yeah, I'm Joel Teague. I'm the founder of CoCharger, the community charging platform. And that's been my life for 5 years now.
Wow.
Which is quite surprising. And the imposter syndrome continues.
What made you decide to fund this company, or is it a company? Is it a business?
Yep, both. I'm sort of a why person, if you like. There are people who are obsessed with how and the what, and I've always been why. And I think it came from my previous career as a program and project manager, mainly in IT. And I worked at the Met Office for about 5 years, which was a fantastic place to work. It's funny how the only place in the world that doesn't appreciate just how brilliant the Met Office is the place where it's located. And working with climate scientists who don't water things down. That puts a different spin on urgency of things like decarbonisation. But it also gave me a real schooling in the importance of people in solutions and how if you wait for the perfect solution, you're never going to come. Yeah, you sometimes need 1,000 ways to combine to solve something. And that's what they do. And if people realise just how much goes on in that building in Exeter and around the world, yeah, we'd appreciate that place a lot more. There's something like 600 PhDs sat there doing things that we can't even fathom. I just learned to nod and as if I could keep up with conversations. But yeah, it was a brilliant place. And then, I was also a car nut. I've had 6 Jaguars now and all sorts of very sinful cars. And I used to convert them to LPG and run those. And then a neighbour showed off his, I think it was a little Renault Zoe back when there was the first tiny ones. They did a whole 80 miles, and he challenged me to, I think off the mark, it was quicker and smoother and quieter than my Daimler. And so I bought one. And it arrived with, at the time I had a driveway, I live in a flat now, and it had arrived with a note saying, your home charge will be another 6 weeks. So I had a car I couldn't drive. And back then, I think there was one public charging location in Exeter 7 miles away, and it hadn't worked for 18 months. So I had a car I couldn't use. The solution was to blame my neighbour, because I'm nice like that. And the arrangement was I was commuting to Exeter, and on a Tuesday night, I would stop on my way home and stick a £5 note through his door, because that's all it cost when the battery was tiny, and plug into his charger and walk home. And then on a Wednesday morning, I'd walk and pick up the car and drive to work. And it worked, sort of, most of the time. And it started to grate because he'd forget or I'd forget, or £5 was too little or £5 was too much. And we realised you need an app for that. And something like 7 years later, we've got the second biggest EV charging network in Britain is basically people with private chargers sharing them with their neighbours. And we're going to be the first soon. Shell, we're coming for you.
When I got my first EV, I didn't have a home charger. So I had to rely on public charging. This was in London, so obviously different situation. But I remember commuting a couple of times in the past to one of my clients in Leatherhead in a 30 kilowatt-hour leaf, limited range. Sometimes I like to put my foot down and have a bit of fun. And if you do that too much, then you soon realize you need some more juice. And I remember asking people, I would basically go on a walk along the lunch break, and I asked people, can I use your charger? And the first person who I asked, he said, I'd rather you didn't. And I was like, oh. So I didn't ask anybody because I thought, and my thought was like, wouldn't it be great if I could just find local people in an app? Because, I'm not English, so I'm happy to ask random strangers, right? Yeah. Politely, obviously. But if they're all going to be saying, I'd rather not, then maybe not.
And you've just illustrated the point of one of the reasons you need the app is we don't particularly encourage one-off use because there is that psychological thing of meeting a person and negotiating that. And that you need an app, really, to take the bits out that the English are bad at, particularly. Not just to make people aware. Obviously, we've got this sort of proximity pings that go on to tell each other, tell users, oh, there's a new host in your area. That sort of thing is all done. But the important thing is it just takes all the awkward out.
Yeah.
But it only really works when it's an ongoing relationship and target user hasn't got an EV yet And I think that's what we have to, I think the industry forgets sometimes. We obsess about EV drivers. EV drivers aren't the problem. We're not burning anything. Let's look at the guy who's about to buy a petrol car. What will it take to stop them buying the petrol car? And the answer is a dependable, affordable, convenient way to charge while they've stopped.
Yeah.
So either at work or at home, so that they're, the mobile phone model. If you tried to launch mobile phones now and said, but you've got to once a week take it to a place and pay £8 and stay with it for 2 hours while it charges, none of us would even have a Nokia. So it's that thing of let's empathize with the guy that matters, which is the one who's about to buy a petrol car. And that means, where's the obvious break in this? Public charging is essential. Nobody wants an EV without really good infrastructure. And I would say we get that. We've got that now. We're doing well. It's come on so well.
Oh, yeah, compared to 8 years ago.
Oh, even 2 years ago. Go on ZapMap now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really good. I can't remember the last time I waited for a charger or had a problem with it just works. But the only reason I am interested in using that public charger is that I had a base charging option, which was a home charger. It's now CoCharger. I live in a flat. And I think that we failed to empathize with that and say, look, is that person, now we're into mainstream, the early adopters have bought them. You're a classic example. You were very brave and went electric without a home charger. We're not normal. Joe Public, he's got other things to worry about. So you've got someone who's sitting there and they're already misinformed. They're nervous about making a switch. Are they really going to buy a car that's, in my case, I'd never had a new car before. I think the youngest car I'd ever had was 6 or 7 years old. It's a big leap. So doing that and saying, and once a week or so, you're going to have to drive around and try and find a public charge point, which may cost more than petrol. And you're going to have to sit with the car for 2 hours or more. And what we've seen year after year after year, despite the public charging network getting better and better is they buy a petrol car.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really moved the needle.
Or a hybrid. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that I heard saying, oh, I bought a PHEV, but I drive on electric all the time. And I don't want to murder them personally because I'm like, why didn't you buy electric then? You've just proven that you're wrong.
Yeah, I had a friend who bought one of those. They're very good Mitsubishi PHEVs. Were everywhere for a while.
Yeah.
And bless him, he bought it and he had to pay to have the petrol tank pumped out because it went off. And I said, well, I did tell you, you're never going to use it. You don't need. So yeah, it is frustrating. To be honest, I have mixed feelings on PHEVs. If they're the gateway drug, then fair enough.
Yeah. If
all it does is create people like my friend Andy, who then just bought an EV. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I have different feelings about other types of hybrid. Not a fan.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's not go there. But then, I used to work for
self-charging cars.
I have worked for the company most guilty for purveying certain phrases that we all hate. I'm not surprised they did it. They weren't my favorite.
Yeah.
So moving on from them, because I think that the industry is now starting to realize, especially with the ZEV mandate, you cannot hit the targets, the objectives that we have to hit if you're excluding half the population. And half the population, give or take, for one reason or another, can't have a home charger or is very unlikely to make it work. We have to start empathizing with the half.
Yeah.
It's 1 million people who would have bought a petrol car otherwise, would have bought an electric car otherwise. And we're ignoring them, and we keep saying, just use public chargers. No, they're not using. How many years do we have to see the needle not move before we realize, there are better options. There are other options. And what we're trying to do now as a group, the near home charging group of companies, us and Charge Ferry and the Gully people and the Gantry people, and there's lots of options. And also residential charging. Yeah, it's public charging, but you're connected curbs and it's streetlight people. We need to move the narrative. The response to someone who says, I can't have a home charger, needs to be moving off this dismissive thing of just use public charging to, there's loads of ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's so many solutions. What is your actual, use case? So, going back to, you were sticking fiver through somebody's door, right? Your neighbor's door, because obviously it was his fault that you got a BEV. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm nice like that. Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a giant leap from that to finding a company and actually, writing an app and
Yeah.
and all that. So what is the rest of the story? Like, tell us the story.
It's one of endurance, to be honest. Because at the beginning, what I'm saying now wasn't as clear to us back then.
Yeah.
And I got other people involved. An old boss of mine who worked in automotive, and I got good people together, and we tried to understand the behavioral patterns and so on. And I think we looked into an app that was just about charge point sharing. PlugShare had been doing that for something like 15 years.
Yeah.
Not a lot happens on it.
No.
And we realized one of the founding principles of CoCharger was be the best at one thing that matters. And helping EV drivers with an alternative to a public charger when they're on the way somewhere doesn't help the environment one jot. It's also not very practical to use a home charger. It's not very good economically for the host who might, because the first time someone shares your charger is the time you probably go down to meet them. It's the first time you have to think about directions, which way around to put the car, how to use charge point, all that sort of thing. That's only worth it if they're coming back next week and a week after, and a week after. So we tried that, and it was a little bit like trying to run a company and an app that was renting houses both for holidays and residential. Pick a lane. They are totally different use cases for different types of people. For a start, one is for EV owners, and the other one is want to be EV owners.
Yeah.
So we've very much doubled down on let's move the environmental needle. Let's help people not to buy petrol cars, and that means let's give them the best alternative to a home charger they can possibly have. And the best way to do that is there's about 1 million already. There's 1 million private chargers out there with under 5% utilization. And each one of them has got an on-site customer service rep. And each one of them is probably in a residential area. So isn't the answer obvious? Let's just do that. And all we have to do is make it easy. We have to get, like you say, get past that English thing of, but people, and make it easy. We've got to, so hence the app just does the matchmaking. It does the reminders, the nudges, and it does the money. Because we hate asking for money.
Yeah.
That's why it was a $5 through the door, not knock on the door. Because then we'd have to argue over, what percentage was it when you started? Oh, is it 5? Should it be £8 today? Or let's make it 2. I'll call it a pint. We don't want to do that every week. Just turn up, plug in, go to bed, come back, unplug, drive off. Yep, that looks right. Pay the money. Done.
I mean, now that you said that, I think I charge my car. I've got a driveway and a Zappi charger with solar panels. So I charge my car. I charge my car either when it's sunny, and I know that I'm going to have some extra diverted power, or when I need to charge, and that's usually overnight because I'm on the Octopus, and I have to pay 7.5p per kilowatt hour at night. But that only happens once, twice a week tops. So, like I say, the charger's probably utilized 10% tops. I mean, the car sits there in front of it all the time anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, we have loads of chargers in town and a couple of rapid chargers as well. So I feel like, we covered for people who are just passing by or people who visit somebody. How would you encourage somebody like me to open my charger to other people?
Yeah, there's two sides to it. And the nice thing is our latest user research confirmed this. Some people, the money is the important thing. You can make, if you have a lot of Uber drivers and delivery drivers who've got a big fleet thing going on, if you get one professional driver using your charger 5 times a week, that's nice income.
Okay.
And it's good value for them. Everybody wins. It's also very important for air quality. Obviously, keeping a diesel van off your town streets is huge. So the money's important, but the altruistic thing is important. And almost all our hosts, it's both. And they're sort of not quite half and half, but generally the altruism is higher. So helping your community is important. Helping fight climate change is important. Air quality is a huge one. It's a little bit like ex-smokers. You don't like people smoking around you or your kids. Yeah, an EV driver doesn't like someone driving a dirty grey SUV petrol past their kids. So you combine that, and it's just one of the things of, we encourage people just do it. For a start, it's free to try, free to sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a really deliberately simple, almost simplistic process. And we know that almost nobody stops. Our trust rating came in at 96%. 57% of users have recommended it unprompted to someone else. We know that once people start using it, they keep using it. It works really well. The problem tends to be just that imagined apprehension. We get things a little bit like with EVs themselves. You get the guy down the pub saying, oh, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I have to drive 300 miles to a hospital in a hurry? They'll invent what ifs to avoid change, right? And we get the same with this is they try it and they go, oh, is that it? Yeah, it's that simple. It's so easy to do and it's so gratifying to do, So I live in a block of 4 flats. We've got one charger and that will cover all 4 flats comfortably. And it's no hassle. It doesn't actually, it's even if you have to move your car, it's like taking the bins out. So what? Might have to do that once a week. It's really, really simple and it's well worth it. And whether it's the money or the altruism that triggers you for doing it, it doesn't matter. It's making a difference. And I think the other side of it is we don't do this, we ain't going to make it.
Yeah. The it plugs that gap in the market, right? We don't have enough solutions out there for people to just charge, if they live without a charger, even if they live in a house, but they don't have their own space to park every time. Yeah. And you're just around the corner. I mean, yeah, I live in a funny neighborhood. People are resistive to, especially elder people or people, past their 60s. They're generally resistant to anything new, naturally. And EVs are not common, but a couple of people moved out recently and the new people came with their EVs are putting, chargers on their walls. So I'm just, I'm grinning basically. Seeing that.
Smug mode.
Exactly.
Yes.
But like from a practical perspective, so if I wanted to put a charger on, but I have got all these, anxieties, random stranger's going to turn up on my drive and is just going to plug in and I don't know who they are, why they're here.
That's one we hear a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you alleviate that, or how would you comfort people that from both, the host and the person who charges?
Yeah, I think the first thing to point out is, this isn't a new concept. Yeah, we've been doing this 4 years, thousands and thousands of sessions, and it's never happened. I did think I saw a video of it happening, nothing to do with CoCharger, and then it turned out to have been staged. And the answer is, if you've got 30, 40,000 quid's worth of your private metal, are you really going to park it on someone's driveway illegally to steal 8 quid's worth of electrons for 6 hours? It doesn't happen.
Yeah, abandon your car essentially, on somebody else's driveway.
Why would you do that? Yeah, and it's just you are opening yourself up for all kinds of abuse. So I don't think it really happens. I think it's a bit like electric car fires. If it does ever happen, it will be everywhere and it will be the exception everyone thinks is the norm. But no, I don't think it happens. It does seem that most of our hosts don't lock their charge points, and yet it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, so I never lock my charge point. It's currently, we're at Everything Electric in Farnborough. I'm away from home. With my car, we only have one electric car or one car, period. The charger's there. If somebody turned up and plugged in, they would have to fight with the Octopus scheduling thing. But other than that, so that leads me actually nicely to other point, which is how do you charge people? How do you know how much they've taken? And how do you kind of do, the whole billing thing?
It was quite an interesting modeling exercise. We did lots and lots of modeling and trials and so on before we started designing the platform. And the first thing we realized is data interfaces, especially to private charge points, back then were problematic. They still are. It's getting better. There's security issues. There are reliability issues. There are maintenance issues. It's costly. So we decided, let's make this freestanding. Let's make it so that nothing has to talk to anything. And that way, there's nothing quite so secure technically as 6 feet of air, and so we stuck with that. And what we ended up doing, which was just one of the models we tried, and we thought, well, we'll start with that. See how it goes. 4 years later, no reason to change it, is that we know the speed of the charge point. We know the size of the car's battery, the usable capacity. All we need to know is the state of charge when they plug in. So we asked the chargee to put that into the app when they hit start session. but they can fiddle that, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So we just make them take a photograph.
Okay.
The app just makes you take a photograph of the dash. And it's just there in case anyone disagrees. But what we found in reality is that's almost never needed, because what makes it work, and another reason we avoid the one-off thing, is the host needs the chargee and vice versa, that it is in their interest to look after each other. And it's actually one of the joys of my job. We are more likely, if someone uses a query button at the end, it's more likely to be a host saying, I think something went wrong and they've paid too much. It's far more likely to be that than the other way around. And the exception eventually proved the rule. We had a chargee that tried it on. So if you come back before 100% and you say, oh, it's at 85 and you unplug, you just pay for the period of time from start to finish, rather than the calculated time that it normally does. You just unplug and drive off and it says, oh, okay, we know it would have taken this long, so you pay for that long. But if they come back, it does make you take a second photograph. And it's not because we need to know the percentage, it's because we need to know you were there.
Yeah.
And one guy was taking a photograph of black, and it was the bedroom ceiling, and then saying, oh, I unplugged at 4:30. No, you didn't. So that idiot is now sleeping in his car at a BP charge point every night, because that was his alternative. So it's been really lovely. It sort of restores your faith in human kindness that, yeah, when you facilitate a mutually beneficial relationship between two people, that's better than any technical security you could build in.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I love the simplicity of this solution, right? And it also encourages people to move their cars if they're done, to make room for somebody else in case that somebody else needs it, right? You don't want people to squat the car on your driveway.
I think we've had a handful of occasions where one host has had more than one session in a day. Generally, it's not the point. Our busiest hosts, we've got one guy as a taxi driver. I think he's had 500 or 600 sessions now. Still only once a day. You're not interested in queuing. You're not doing it as a business. You're not queuing people up. You're not waiting. I mean, who is really going to stop for several hours at someone's home on their way somewhere? You're not queuing them up. It's a very different, this is why we don't do that scenario. We stick to what matters. Give that person a way to run their car, which is generally plug it in, go home to bed.
Yeah.
Just it's home charging with the longer walk to your door.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So there's generally people who live in the area anyway, and you just get to meet more people living in the area.
It just connects you up, because we're not that neighbourly. We don't know, but most people have got several thousand people near them within a 5-minute walk, who at some point or another are going to need a charging option, a base charging option, as we call it. And all we do is do that matchmaking and just make it easy. And what's turned out to work best is simplicity. It's why there's, for instance, people asking about, what if I've got a variable tariff when I'm setting my price as a host? And the answer is, well, set it to the maximum, based on your maximum cost, your day rate for electricity. That's fine. It still works out really, really good for the chargee. We don't need to make it more complicated. At this point, when the objective is decarbonize, what that person, that nervous first-time potential EV buyer wants is clarity.
Yeah.
So if I can't answer the question, how much does it cost, with a simple answer, with a number, if I say it depends, they're buying a petrol car. So we've kept it simple. It might mean that the host is making more money than they're comfortable with. I'm sure they can find ways of dealing with that. It's just sticking to that thing where you're helping two people to help each other out, and they will work it out. So my setup means that the prices are sort of hybrid between the highest and lowest cost, because everybody uses that charge point. At some point, they're using the cheap period, so it's sort of down. I think we're all paying something like 28p per kilowatt, something like that. And everybody's happy. There's no need to complicate it.
Yeah. So now the question becomes, how do you make money as a company? Obviously, you want to keep this going, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of my great heroines is Juliet Davenport, who came to speak at the Met Office, actually. I met her back then. Of course, she'd founded Good Energy. And her attitude seemed to be, and I hope I'm doing her no injustice here, do good and make enough money to do more good. And I like that.
That's a good attitude.
Yeah. And our principle is, we only take money when someone stops burning something. So the app doesn't cost anything. There's no subscriptions. There's nothing. It's just, at the end of it, as soon as the host hits approve, the chargee has got a pre-registered payment card. It takes the amount off that. takes 12%, 10% plus VAT goes to us. And then the banks rip us for a big chunk of that. And we run the scheme off what's left. And the 88% gets queued up and gets paid to the host.
Okay.
And that's it. And we try to stick to that. We are launching a fleet offering, which brings in some other elements that work specifically for fleet operators if you're trying to decarbonize your return to home LCV fleet, where you can pay for exclusive use of a host and things like that, and standardized pricing and things like that. But that's just for that market. But the principle is our income is linked to decarbonization.
I like the, as an engineer, I appreciate anybody who's doing things in a simple manner.
Yeah.
Always.
Occam's razor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So another question would be, do you give any training to the people who will come and charge, and the hosts as well? Is there any video to watch, anything like that?
Yeah, there's a few, and we're adding to them all the time. And I think it's at the time when this is where my team can answer better than I. At the time when you are due to start your first ever session, you get an SMS with a link to a video, and the host gets one saying, here's all you do. I think they're 28 seconds long. And the chargee says, here's all you do. And you get emails as well, and you get all the rest of it. And now we're adding more and more. To be honest, it is that simple.
Yeah. There's
not a lot to it.
Yeah, but you want something to put people at ease, right? Like just ease them into the process.
And videos are best. I think that, if you're like me, you're a lazy so-and-so and you get fed up of reading screens, and you're just sitting there and watching a video on your phone is a good way of doing it. But yeah, the vast majority of people just get the app, set up an account, book a charge, do it, and it just happens. There's not an awful lot of anything else goes on. And like I say, we deal with lovely people. It's so nice. And so when we do provide instructions, it tends to be pretty brief. I think we possibly suffer from people expecting it to be more complicated than it is.
What does the future hold for CoCharger?
Yeah, well, we're now in a position. It's very exciting. We've been around. We've stayed the course. I think is the main thing. We're still here, and
You've proven it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's long gone are the days when interesting concept. This is how people run their EVs now, and we know. Yeah, our user research, the stats are sky high. When people start using it, they keep using it. They like it. They recommend it. All that stuff's good, but we need to scale. And we don't come from some big backer or anything like that. This is all funded by, we raised money on a platform called FX, which is like seeders for ethical companies. And now we're in the fortunate situation where with the fleet model coming in, because it's particularly effective for fleet. We've got a lot of Uber drivers using us and delivery drivers and so on. That means we need hosts. We need to get from our 6,000 to 16,000 pretty quickly. So we're looking for organizations who have interaction with private charger owners to encourage them. I think there should be a principle a bit like recycling. It should be, if you can share, do share.
Yeah.
Because it's in everybody's interest to do this. There's going to be 10 to 15 million people still running around in 8-year-old petrol cars in 2038 if we don't do something about this. So yeah, I think our main challenge now is we've got the fleet offering coming in, which we've worked with fleet. We know it works beautifully. It removes a massive problem in that sector where electrification of small vans has stalled at under 5% in the last year. That's not good. It didn't increase at all. I think it dropped slightly. But to match that, a professional driver will keep a host busy on their own. So we need more people to sign up and just share their charge point, because it makes a massive difference. And we need to get from 6,000. It's great. And they were lovely people, but we need a lot more. There's 1 million private charge points out there. I'm sure we can find 10,000 more of them.
Yeah. We're talking UK only, right?
At the moment, yeah. We're waiting to hear. And I don't think it would be right for me to discuss the countries involved. But yeah, I think the word has gone out. I think we're the only people in the world really doing this.
In such a simple way as well, right?
Yeah. There's some I should point out, there are really good other charge point sharing apps, but we're the only ones that just do this model, and we stick to our guns on it. And the nice thing is, actually, I don't care. We're talking to the government about encourage sharing. If someone wants to sign up for all the others, which all do slightly different things. It's fine. We all play nicely together. I talk, I have a pint with them. We're a nice
We're all
lot.
mates. Yeah.
They don't clash. So if someone wants to, for instance, rent out their driveway during it, if you live near a station or something, rent out your driveway during the day, and there are apps will do that and let you charge for charging.
Yeah.
And then by night, you're a community charger because they're not going to pay to park if they're parking for free.
Yeah.
But they might do it, So if you're near the station, but at night, a neighbor can use it. And it's a different thing. That's community charging. So I'm all for just getting this concept of, look, if you've got a private charger, share it. We'll do what we do. We're quite proud of it. It's going nicely. There are other people doing other things. Just do it.
I know the simplicity of it is the key, but the people that I interviewed beforehand were talking about work charging.
Yeah.
There's loads of workplaces that people turn up in the morning, plug in. At lunchtime, they unplug. Somebody else plugs in for the rest of the day. But virtually everybody leaves at 5:30, and the whole place is deserted. Have you ever thought about reaching workplaces like that and asking them to open that up as well?
Very much so. One thing we do when we work with local authorities and they're trying to get this going, we try to encourage a share first policy. So if you've got your Levi grant to put in, 100 public chargers, my challenge to them is put in 99 and spend the price of the last one. I bet I'll get you another 100 of community chargers for the price of one public one. Share first, use the money to do the difficult bit where the gaps are.
Yeah.
And one thing we encourage them to do is to get on Google Maps and find every doctor's surgery, every private chiropractor, every community hall, every church, every school. And actually, OZEV are really good at, they encourage if you've got school parking, which is outside the security gates, and you've got chargers on it, share it with it. They're promoting CoCharger for that. And that's a really good sort of kickstart to get community chargers in your area. It doesn't scale all that well, but it doesn't matter. It gets it going.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And some of the bigger companies, Johnny, if you're listening, there are some big corporations with car parks with rows of chargers in, unused, and they've got blocks of flats, in some cases, Johnny, directly across the road. So put them on CoCharger, go and knock on doors or put flyers through doors saying, you can have an EV now. This is your home charger. It's over the road. You book it. It's totally reliable. It costs a hell of a lot less than public charging generally. Yeah. So we're encouraging that. There's no losers in it. It's just one of those things. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, it sounds great. Shall we end on that note?
Sure.
And just send people to your website, which is co-charger.com.
That's right. Yeah, just go to the website, get the app. Doesn't cost anything. It's really easy to set up. And we're nice people. If you've got any questions on how to use it, particular use cases, we've had loads here at the Everything Electric South show. Always happy to talk. So yeah, just get the app, get in touch, be part of the community, make some good happen.